everyone, and welcome to another edition of Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power YouTube TV podcast production. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode highlighting someone who is extremely inspirational. Super proud to know her, have known her for a long time, and all the wonderful things she's doing. Tonight, we're joined by Dr. Camille Dempsey. She is a scholar, a theory who actually discovered the theory of virtuality, culture, and media theory, which we're going to talk a little bit more about today and unpack. She is a professor of educational technology, an EDSAFE AI Catalyst Fellow, an ISTE AI Research Fellow, a Google Women Techmakers, and a mixed media artist and a consultant. She is a professor, media theorist, researcher, consultant, does so many incredible things. Dr. Dempsey, how are you tonight?
Oh, thank you so much for the nice introduction. I'm doing great. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. So, Dr. Dempsey, you and I have both been involved in education for most of our careers. And I don't know when you took your first online class, but I actually took mine in 1998. I can track it to the University of Southern Mississippi. And I always give them credit because kudos to Mississippi. They had one of the first online MSW programs. I wasn't in the MSW program, but I needed an elective and it was online. I was like, sign me up. I was a single parent, I had a very active toddler. So it sounded like a great deal, but things have changed a lot since then. My daughter is 26. She was born in 97. So I know that means that it's been at least 25 years since I started in this field. Tell me a little bit about your, introduction to online, distance, virtual, and technology in education, and what got you so inspired about it.
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually started out in the arts, and it was a natural progression to get involved with tech, all things tech and ed tech, so educational technology. So I was a professor at a university that I'm not at right now. And I was getting a lot of questions from faculty on how to use certain tech tools. And that was before I actually went to school for that. But I guess I just kind of got into how, using technology for communication and expressing ourselves became more, I could see where it was becoming more and more important. So yeah, I took my first online class when I did my doctorate, which was in ed tech and of course, online teaching and everything that's hit since then was sort of like part of that. So yeah, and I studied not that long ago. It was maybe 12 years ago. And of course, it was before everything happening with AI and all the things with instructional design that have shifted us. And so who would have known that this explosion would have happened? And now we're all running to keep up, and people are running to me and they're panicking about, is this plagiarism if I have students do this or that with it? And how do I design my courses now? I don't have a lot of time and I'm just struggling to do what I already was doing. So yeah, it almost feels like, I don't know, shifting sand. We're all just trying to figure out, including me, what to sort of take out of my course, what to add in, how to include the students in the process, which is uncomfortable for a lot of professors, right? So not how they studied, and it's creating some new dissonance for some of them to learn to collaborate more with their students. So yeah. So anyway, yeah, that was kind of how that all started. And then I teach educational technology and online teaching, and I do instructional design and a lot of other things that are embedded in that. And I'm finding every term I'm changing courses. Every term there's different questions and issues coming up for students. So I think, just kind of the name of the game right now, I think, is going with the flow and helping to support whatever the questions are. And it's amazing to me that the questions are changing and the questions are becoming dramatically different from term to term. So yeah, I've really watched a lot of change. I think we all have. We're all in this together, part of this shift and whatever's happening. And it's terrifying and exciting to people at the same time. So yeah, and there's not a lot of us out there trying to help everyone. So I think that, that also, that carries with it some responsibility, and So now I kind of look at a lot of what I do is just helping people, like giving people resources, giving people what they need, and then letting them dig into like specific areas, and that they don't need to know it all. Like you just, if you dig into one thing for a little while and just kind of do some inquiry and be curious with it, you're probably going to come away with a lot. So yeah.
I think that's so incredible. And one of the things that I find so inspiring, like you, I've been an early adopter. Adaptive technology was one of the very first courses I took in my master's program and in my doctorate program, which was almost entirely online. And then at the time after that, I was the virtual dean of a campus that offered the associates online. So I was very excited to be a part of those things. But you and I both know some of the words you just said there: change, adaptability, flexibility, disruption, right? There's a lot of fear associated with that. And in education, we often resist change because we're afraid, right, of disrupting the status quo. How are you, in the work that you're doing, helping teachers? It sounds like you're saying break it down one thing at a time, but what are you finding maybe with the leadership, and how are you able to help them, persuade them to invest in this technology and really to develop a strategy and a leadership capacity to support it?
Yeah, so I think the thing that I'm seeing, I was just in Morocco working with professors, and then I did some work with professors in Pennsylvania, like from different universities. And I think the thing that on the leadership level that's really needed is this understanding that we need an AI policy to help guide like the vision of what we do at institutions. And some people are not creating like a standalone AI policy. What they're doing is they're attaching it to like another, like whatever the technology aspect is. But unless we have a vision for sort of what we can and can't do, it's very difficult to expect professors, on a leadership level to like run with this. And then I think the second piece is that the professor themselves needs to do some philosophical inquiry around these topics. And I think we need to be careful of just, the default, we don't want to deal with this, I'm going to run back to my corner, and anything the students do with AI is cheating. So like we are so far beyond that, or we need to be beyond that. And we need to be thinking as professors that, hey, why did we get into what we got into to start with? Because we were curious, because we wanted to, add to the field, because we want to help other people. So I really think that that's important. And I think in order to do that, again, I think, professors need to spend a little time and maybe a lot of time on specific areas. Like, what does, appropriate AI policy look like? What are the ethical concerns around AI? And then what are the potential, not only the challenges, but some of the benefits? And then how do we, not only how do we leverage it, but then how do we work with our students? Because it's not going away, and students need help, and they're going to do what they're going to do, just like we are. But I think there's this great opportunity for us to partner with them and start to have these conversations. Like, what is acceptable? What does constitute plagiarism? And I think a lot of professors who've been really resistant and sort of scared, I've been really pleasantly surprised. Like a lot of my undergrads, before we jumped into some of the topics, they were very gun shy. They were like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to use it. And it was interesting because you have to allow for that space, right? Like, and it almost feels like therapy session, like unpacking.
I love it.
what it is they know. And then when they tell you that like one professor threatened them that if they use it, they're going to fail. No wonder they're paranoid and panicking about it. But there are certainly a lot of things that they can do with it and we can do with it that doesn't just make our life more efficient, but also improves the quality of our lives and makes some things possible that we've never been able to do before. So I think those are some real big ones for sure.
I love that. All of that is so exciting to me, but I know not exciting to everyone. Now, you've mentioned that you are presenting globally. I have to ask, is there a greater receptivity globally or internationally to AI than there is here in the United States?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on what area we're looking at. Like the US is actually really leading in a lot of ways. I mean, there's other countries for sure. We have a lot more, when you look at like advertising with AI, we have a lot more fear, like the sort of like Terminator taking over the world and like the gloom and doom aspects of AI. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that AI, everything is great about it. It's not all sunshine. There are real concerns with bias and with ethical issues and who's represented, people of color not being represented in many cases. So like, there's definitely really important, critical things to look at. But then when you look at a lot of the Asian countries, they have robots in the news that are all assisting, like they're out serving people in restaurants. Nice. And they're in retirement homes, like visiting with older people. And there's a much more positive sort of feeling about AI agents and AI assistants there. So I think in that way, we might have more of a perception problem. But then when you look at what we're doing, I mean, Google is here, Microsoft is here, and they're in OpenAI. I mean, they're all here, like doing development. So it's hard to say that, it would be hard to say that the U.S. isn't leading because, major companies are here in the intellectual capital, the people that are working on the tools and so forth, and the AI models. Yeah, for sure.
That's wonderful. No, you actually tapped into something that I've thought for a long time. We have obviously some labor shortages, right? We have jobs that people just aren't interested in anymore. Why aren't we intentionally, and maybe we are, and that's an area outside of my realm of expertise, but really dedicating some of our AI capabilities and functionalities to those industries or sectors where they can, really pitch in and be an added bonus. So that's great. How do you stay on top of the latest developments? Like how, as you're the face of AI in so many ways in terms of higher education, and in that space, so many people lean into you. How do you manage to be that, bridge and consultant and support others, but also make sure you're really in touch with what's going on and what's coming?
Yeah, so I don't watch a lot of television. But what I do is I spend a lot of time on webinars and reading and, some of the organizations. I mean, there's so much that anyone can learn, actually, like conferences. There's some really great conferences. I just got back from the Educational Advancements in AI conference that was in Vancouver. That was a big one. Then I also was just in Las Vegas at the Society for Information Technology and Teacher Education. So like almost all the sessions were AI and how things are happening in higher ed and what we need to do with instructional design and different models with technology integration. Another big one is the International Society for Technology and Education. So that, there's a lot of networking and things that happen there. A lot of the learning that I do, I'll be honest, is just, from people that I'm connected to. We're all learning together as, professional learning networks. So on LinkedIn, on, X or Twitter, I can't get used to saying X, and some on Facebook. So yeah, I mean, and every day in my inbox, I feel like there's more and more, opportunities. And then I think the other way is just getting involved, like actually going and presenting and doing roundtables and asking other people, like, what are they doing, having critical conversations about it. I know Quality Matters, which is the industry standard for higher ed. They very much are all about quality, online quality in courses. And so I know they're evolving, with what they're doing. In fact, it's funny, I got my online teaching credential through them, one of the professional development events. And now, the conversations are starting about, what are we doing with AI? And
sure,
we've all been asking that question, like, so how in every organization actually I talk to, like, how are you, a part of that? And certainly ISTE is leading with, AI everything. They have an AI explorations program with General Motors. So, I keep up there. Teachers can take, if they get accepted in the program, they get like a free professional development course, and they get to work with faculty, that run them through the program. And I did that for a while, and it was wonderful because I was able to learn like from the ground up, like what teachers were doing. Like some of them had like second graders building chatbots, and like all these incredible things that I keep reminding professors, like these students are coming, right? So the expectations for what they can do and where they're going to look to go to school is going to be huge. So
Yeah.
if we don't want to learn about it, let's think about the students and kind of like who's coming and what do we need to do to be ready. So yeah, but there's like loads and loads of resources and places that people can look at. And I think another thing is like staying away from anything that's doom and gloom, and like looking at a resource. I always analyze the resource. If it seems pretty balanced, like it's got some critical aspects, but it's also got the potential for it, it's probably a good thing to read. So that's how I kind of measure what I read about AI, because otherwise we end up like right back to, oh my God, the robots are going to take over the world. And the truth is, AI, we are the expert. When we use AI tools, we are the experts. The AI tool is not the expert. The AI tool is simply part of the AI model that the company developed. And yes, it learns from us. And yes, we're going back and forth with it like a co-pilot or like it's our mentor or a peer or whatever it is. But it's not something that I see as like taking over the world. Not unless humans allow that to happen. And I just don't think that's where we're going. But I do think, like I keep telling people, I do think we're going to see in very, very soon. I mean, it's happening now, but I think like I think every professor will have an AI assistant if they don't already. I know I have 2 of them. If we look at the students that are coming up, they'll all have AI tutors. So like Conmigo is already doing, assistant works with, students and how to do math problems and coaching them through. This is just going to become a part of everyday culture. And I think if we can start to think about like, how do we work with them so that they're more like assistants, or like I said, the co-pilot or thought partner kind of concept, it's less threatening because we're still in the driver's seat. We're still saying, hey, this is what I want, and you're my assistant, So I don't really feel threatened by them yet. I don't know. Maybe there'll come a time where we need to be more concerned. But right now, I can see a lot of, opportunity. So yeah, for sure.
Well, I absolutely love your energy, your enthusiasm, and like you said, your curiosity. I think when we approach things with an open mind and a desire to learn. And I so appreciate your willingness to do that and to jump in fully in this field and in the sector. As we come to a close, could you maybe share 1 or 2 things that you feel are on the horizon? And lastly, what inspires you to keep going? And who, if there's anybody out there?
Yeah. So I've always been kind of hyper. I mean, just always busy learning and growing. And I don't know what it is. I just am very curious about this technology. And I'm also really balanced about it because I do, like I said, there are concerns because, and it is relatively new. I mean, when we think about generative AI really started to blow up, November of 2022. So, I think we have to be careful. Like I try to kind of slow people down. Okay, I know it's exciting, but take a look at these deep fakes. Let's look at some of the concerns too. And I try to slow people down. I guess, what drives me is knowing that there's a need. Like there's a need to help people not only understand all of this, but get to a place where we can look at this like we look at other things that we're passionate about. Because I almost think when we think about electricity being like this huge, innovation, the other things that were huge, I mean, look at the mobile phone, the device. Yeah, I mean, that just transformed everything. It transformed us. And the internet. I mean, the internet was crazy, and they used to worry like, our generation, oh, they might stumble on a pornography and might get into this. And now no one's worrying about that, or maybe they are, but they're worrying about this. Oh my gosh, are the students cheating with AI? And I tell people, like, there's always been cheating. There's always been plagiarism. And just because we have these tools doesn't mean that they're cheating more. So it's what we work with them on. And certainly, yeah, taking everything verbatim from AI, you could make an argument for how that's plagiarism, but having them, upload sections of a paper, asking for suggestions. How do I reword this? I'm struggling with this sentence. How do I reword this? It's like having a built-in tutor. Who doesn't want that kind of support? Why would we hold back from some of these tools if they could actually help our students? So, yeah. And I mean, as far as like a hero, I don't know that I have a hero, but I will say that be watching for, and I'm not a feminist, but we see a lot of men, in the AI space with the news and with other things. There are some really amazing women who are leading. Like, there's an artist, she's one of my favorites, Natrice Gaskins. Like, take a look at her work just for some inspiration, because this woman's amazing. She works with traditional art, materials. She uses Photoshop, some other tools, and then she uses AI to sort of supplement and work with that. There are women who are doing incredible things. So be critical of the fact that right now, like in a lot of these spaces, we're just hearing from the men. Not that, like I said, I'm no feminist, but I've never seen more women in educational technologies I do right now. And that excites me, So, but yeah, I don't know that I have like one hero. I think we're all in this together. We're all learning together. So I don't know. I'm learning from everybody, and it's good. So, yeah.
Well, kudos to you for being one of those groundbreaking pioneers and females to do it first and to jump in with your arms and your heart and your mind wide open. I so appreciate that. You were really, before we go real quickly, we didn't get to talk about your theory, which I'd love if maybe you could just summarize, because we have changed. We are different. How we interact and engage with each other in a virtual classroom or in the virtual space is decidedly different. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, and then we'll call it a day. But I love the work that you're doing. So proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I can keep it real short. So before I kind of got into all this, what's going on, back in 2014, I discovered a gap in terms of cultural theory. And so we have, a great man by the name of Walter Ong, who outlined features of orality culture and literacy culture. And so as I was sort of reading, I thought, okay, Marshall McLuhan started to get into some of the media theory, cultural theory kinds of things, but everything sort of stopped with television and radio, like with their kind of generation. So I picked it up and I built off of his work and created, like I said, this theory. And so what I believe, and this was part of conversations with my dissertation chair, Gary Shank. So I definitely want to say his name. And so what I believe is we're evolving towards the something new, and that something new is, as far as becoming more virtualized as a culture, really can't be explained exclusively with literacy or orality. So the tricky part is that virtuality, I believe, it can't exist without some of the features of both literacy and orality. So when we look at Zoom, for example, and we hear one another and we see one another and we see the body language, it's very much like, being in a space with someone in close proximity, but it's also different. So even though it has features of orality, that the nature of how that Zoom environment works is virtuality. So like, that's sort of what the theory says. I'm working on a taxonomy with all the different technologies and the ways that we can think about it. So to be continued.
So education nerds right here, taxonomies excite us. I can't wait to see it. Yes, Dr. Dempsey, I have every intention and interest. Exciting to hear that. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Continue to do your great work from first grade to where we are today, both of us in our fabulous 50s. It's so great to see all the wonderful advances and things that you've done to be innovative. And on behalf of the Aspire to Inspire team, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who have watched us, you can connect with Dr. Dempsey on LinkedIn. She's published, and she may be presenting at a webinar or conference near you. And she, of course, is also available for consulting. So please check out her LinkedIn, get connected. And thank you, Dr. Dempsey, for being someone who inspires us all to aspire for more, particularly as it comes to educational technology and the learning environments that we are now invited to really create and innovate in. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions. And on behalf of the entire Aspire to Inspire team and Embrace the Power, we'll see you next time. Keep looking for inspiration everywhere you go.